in vicinity of Terra Sector, Krynos Nebula Galilea System. All, Space Mayday Vi Intergal Comnet. Starliner X-Ray 370 lost in solar. 1 shuttle detached. Ability survival system. Reward 3,000 mega credits.
May 1983 saw the release of Spacehunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, following the renaissance of the 3D movie. 1983 saw a plethora of 3D releases, including Jaws 3D, Friday the 13th 3D, and Amityville 3D. In a publicity stunt, Spacehunter was released in the States just 1 week before the Star Wars sequel, Return of the Jedi, hoping to capitalise on the Star Wars fever, and also to market that this was the first 3D movie to feature outer space. It wasn't. That credit was held by They Came From Outer Space in 1953. It was a gamble that didn't pay off, as it only managed to claw $16.5 million domestically in the States on a production cost of $14.4 million. Released by Columbia Pictures, with the future Ghostbusters director Ivan Reitman credited as exec producer, Spacehunter isn't a low-budget independent sci-fi cash grab. It has a notable cast and production crew. Peter Strauss stars as Wolf, a space salvager and bounty hunter, on a mission to rescue a trio of survivors of a freak accident aboard a luxury space cruiser, after they crash land on the ravaged failed Earth colony Terra 11. Strauss is a fine actor with a long career in TV and cinema, making a name for himself in Rich Man and Poor Man, in TV miniseries Cain and Abel, and having a successful career as a voice artist, with roles in the Batman animated series, and also being credited with the singing voice of SpongeBob SquarePants. Joining Wolf on his quest is the estranged orphan and big-time brat Nikki, played by future John Hughes favourite and Brat Pack star Molly Ringwald, in her second cinematic role. Molly would go on to be a teen icon in the 80s with roles in 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, and of course The Breakfast Club. On the trail of the survivors and looking for the same reward is space veteran and one-time friend to Wolf, Washington, played by future Ghostbuster Ernie Hudson. This is not the only link to the future classic and blockbuster released a year later, in 1984. The late great Harold Ramey had an uncredited role as the voice updating Wolf on his current status.
I got a lot of messages for you, Wolf. We got a transmission from a guy on Omega 6. He's got 8 tons of beryllium scrap. He wants you to pick it up as soon as you can. And the police called from the 42 sector. You got 105 parking tickets. I think you should take care of that. And your ex-wife is looking for you. She hasn't gotten a check from you in 3 months. Oh, and the administrator of your housing unit says you're 2 months behind in your rent. You have 5 days to pay up or you're out in the street.
Ernie was cast apparently due to his likeness of Billy D. Williams, who played Lando in Empire Strikes Back.
And how you doing, Chewbacca? You still hanging around with this loser?
Veteran bad guy Michael Ironside plays Overdog, the dictator of the plague-ravaged Terra 11, one member of a medical trio sent to help the struggling Earth colony, who appears to be more machine than man and is pretty much unrecognisable underneath the prosthetic makeup and costume. Michael was the go-to bad guy in the 80s and 90s, with iconic roles in Scanners to Highlander 2 and of course Total Recall. Directed by Lamont Johnson, popular for working on TV, Lamont wasn't the first director on the project. Credited for the story is Jean Lafleur, the original director, who was removed from the movie due to creative differences. Jean went on to write The Lost World based on the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle book starring Patrick Bergman in 1998. The movie score was provided by future Ghostbusters composer Elmer Bernstein. This has been criticised for being just another throwaway carbon copy space opera score, but it does have some great themes, and I especially love the cue that's associated with Nikki. Elmer was well established and respected, providing scores for the classics like Magnificent Seven, and going on to score the remake for Cape Fear. Spacehunter unfortunately became disregarded as a Star Wars and Mad Max 3D cash-in. Whilst there is some truth to this from a certain point of view, I don't think that's all true. You could spend your time over-analysing the similarities here, but you would be missing out on an entertaining space romp. The plot moves on at a fair rate, from the opening introduction of Wolf and his fembot assistant Chalmers, played by Andrea Marcovici. Wolf encounters everything from space pirates to grotesque blobs that look like aged Bubbles DeVere from Little Britain, a tribe of Amazonians, and mutated-looking mini-me's.
The Overdog did this, and the chemists with their germ works.
To children? This whole planet gives me the creeps.
Let's get the hell out of here.
Move into the final, based in a Mad Max-esque Beyond Thunderdome lair of the Overdog. There are some interesting production designs, and the locations of Arizona and Utah are shot to good effect by Ridley Scott's old friend Frank Tidy, using the tried and tested red filter to give that alien world hue. There's nice character moments building a relationship with the stone-hearted Wolf and the sometimes annoying brat behaviour of Nikki, which is leading to a more father and daughter relationship. Where the narrative does fall is the backstory of Overdog. It is hinted that he is one of the 3 doctors sent to help the planet, but you could easily miss this detail, and it would have been interesting to learn his rise to power, and maybe it could have differed him from the generic bad guy. But I guess that's from a modern perspective, and it would have eaten into the standard 90-minute running time. There's some interesting model work and effects from Dan Bland and the team at Fantasy 2 Effects. It's not ILM, but it does the job within a tight budget. There is a fan theory that suggests the reason for the similarities to Mad Max is that the basis for this story was in fact the original treatment for the George Miller Mad Max movie that was dropped due to the budget limitations of the first Mad Max. I can't find anything to back this up, but it's an interesting concept and would also explain why some feel Miller addressed this with his sequel Mad Max Fury Road in 2015. There are definitely some similarities in vehicle designs and characters, and story elements suggest this to be true, but you'll just have to take that as fan theory. But I suggest you check out a few videos on the subject and compare the 2 movies. Spacehunter is a fairly nostalgic movie for me. It's one of the video rental store finds I came across a couple of years after its release. I remember seeing a promo on a Saturday morning's kids show around its cinema release, but it never came to my local cinema when released in the UK in October of the same year. I would have loved to have witnessed it in 3D, as I really enjoyed it. It was similar with another 3D movie released in 1983, Mental Storm: The Destruction of Jared Sim, a far less successful movie and one that pushes the in-camera 3D to the max. That's one element that Spacehunter isn't guilty of, partly due to the 3D coming later in production at the request of Ivan Reitman. Spacehunter isn't so bad it's good. It's not even a guilty pleasure. Sure, there are some dodgy moments in there. The 3 survivors look like they are straight out of a Duran Duran promo, crossed with Jane Fonda's Barbarella, the movie where the band got their name. There are a few plot holes and some hammy bits of dialogue, and a few sexual undertone moments, which went over my head as a kid.
That one. The one in the center. Undress her. Slowly. Yes. Yes.
The action is well shot, but suffers from some choppy editing in order to stick to the running time. It's a shame it's an overlooked movie. It's a fun-filled 80s space adventure that happens to borrow from a few movies. I recommend you give it a watch. It's been released on Blu-ray recently, and if you've never seen it, or you haven't watched for a while, give it a go. You never know, you might discover a cult classic. It's definitely refreshing to watch an old school movie in these days of oversaturated CG. Much like recent times when 3D became very popular, that too is now losing its appeal. And that was true in 1985 when we've seen the last 3D movie release. If you have any memories of the movie, please put them in the comments below. And please consider subscribing to my channel. Once again, thanks for watching, and don't forget you can follow me on social media. And I'll speak to you guys soon. Take care. Thanks a lot.
But you said if I made it through, I'm free!
I lied. Nobody goes free. Camas! Prepare the fusion tube!